All right, here we go. We're officially off on our adventure. My name is Ara, and I'm the host of the Living Mandala podcast. I'm joined, of course, with Dr. Bill Barnard. Thank you for being here, Bill. We're going to talk about the root chakra on this particular episode. So let's talk. Tell us about the root chakra.
Let's just plunge right in. That would be a very root chakra thing you're doing. It's because it's literally the name in the Sanskrit is Muladhara chakra. And, Muladhara literally means like this is the sort of the basis of the root. So that, it's like, this chakra, I guess I'll, they have traditional associations with them in terms of color, for instance. So in this case, the color that's traditional for the Muladhara is red. Right? And they're also, at least the lower five, are linked in with what they call the elements. And this is a system of different sort of basic qualities. In this case, is earth is the element. And I think I said this whole emphasis in these chakras on vibrations, on sound, and letters of the alphabet. So in this case, there's so they call the seed mantra, the vibration that they vibratory reality that doesn't necessarily have a meaning, but it's more like a frequency. It's called lum. And so this is a Muladhara chakra. And the Muladhara often, and this depends upon the system which you're looking at. In a lot of their traditional understandings, sometimes it depends. Sometimes some of the lower chakras tend to be somewhat denigrated within like yoga traditions and stuff. At least certainly I know within the yoga tradition that I studied for quite a while, it felt like the only chakras that were valuable were the ones basically at the top half of your heart up, and so there was a tendency of sort of presenting only with what I would consider to be like sort of the negative qualities of a chakra, or the chakra when it hasn't been developed in a sense, So in this case, it would be sort of that sense of being like fixed on this plane and sort of solid in terms of almost like stuck, right? And a sense that you're sort of lower and heavy, and had that sort of quality to it, that you're so almost like a stone, that in the Hindu, not the Hindu word, it's called Jud. My teacher said you're Jud, which means like you're sort of stupid, you're slow, and you're heavy,
as opposed to just grounded.
Right, exactly, right. And so I tend to think that no, each chakra has its own beauty. It's each one of them is fully divine, and that's a more what we call like more of a tantric perspective. In the sense that there isn't that sort of sense of lower or higher. It's like this is an incredibly important chakra. This is the chakra, just like what you said, of being grounded, of being solid, in terms of like being really present, really centered in the best possible way. And so when we're talking about someone who's an earthy character too, someone who's like, and there's an earthiness to them, that's this Muladhara chakra that's being really wide open. And so it also has a sense of sort of inner stability. And so there's a sense of being, your mind is still, and like sort of like you're more like a mountain, in that sense that you're rooted in yourself, you're solid, you're dependable, you have a sense of weighty presence, right? And there's a sense of strength and structure. So the earth says they had a whole sophisticated understanding of these elements, and so the earth wasn't understood just to be like earth, like the dirt. Earth was anything that has structure and strength and is a framework, is that which gives solidity and firmness. So all of these are really positive qualities, right? And so if for this is like that which gives structure, that which is the basis of things, the foundation, and so all these are energies, right? They're qualities of experience, they're qualities of life. And I think that it's really important to have and to honor like the energies of the Muladhara and to nurture those qualities in ourselves. And again, that's what that I feel for sure is that one of the major benefits and end goals of all spiritual practice is to open these potentials within us, right? So to think like, what would it mean to really invite these qualities into our bodies and into our daily life? And so like what you'll be talking about with the house, right? It's just like the extension of us, right? And so we're like the center of it all, and it's sort of like the Buddha at the center of the mandala, And so we're like, so there's an intimate, interrelated relationship between the chakras that are within us and these qualities and how they manifest in our lives, right? And so there's a real beautiful thing, like, so in my life and in my house, every aspect of my life, how can I cultivate and nurture and encourage and open to and consciously create as much as possible these positive, beautiful qualities?
Yeah. Well, and I think you're pointing to the exact premise of these exploration conversations that you and I are having, because, in contemplating the chakras, I've been thinking about, well, where does the Muladhara chakra show up in the house? And so in my musing, these are the places I think it shows up. It shows up under the sinks, anywhere that's dark. And, we don't open and close very often. So under the sinks, maybe under the beds. What's going on underneath your beds? Do you store things under your beds, or do you leave your beds open, right? The floor of the closet, specifically the floor, of the closet. If you're in a house that has a basement, I feel like the Muladhara chakra is the basement as well. Crawl spaces. I live in a pier and beam home, and so we have a crawl space underneath our house, and so that's where that is. Also in some ways the garage, sort of feel it. That's typically where we park our cars. It's where we store our heavy things. It's it's usually not an active place in terms of everyday cooking and cleaning and living. So sometimes the garage or deep storage areas. Could be considered the Muladhara chakra of the home. And then in terms of, a house checkup, the kind of the health and vitality of your house, how does the Muladhara chakra show up? I was thinking about this, like, do you have a fire extinguisher in your home? Safety is all about being grounded and comfortable in your home. So are you equipped with a smoke alarm? Do you have a carbon monoxide detector? Is there a good quality first aid kit in the house? These are all things that I feel like are pointing to, kind of a firmeza, a firmness, in a way of thinking about areas that maybe are a little bit neglected.
Foundations of the house.
The foundation of the house. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, because you didn't really get into this, but, in terms of like being able to point to an area on the body where the Muladhara chakra is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's like the perineum kind of area, it kind of goes down, out of the body a little bit. Sometimes it's perceived as, kind of coming through the feet as well, into the ground. Would you?
Yeah, no, that's true. It often the way when I was in studying the healing school, what we talk about as if there's this sort of vortices of energy rise up from the earth and can either be coming through the legs or up between the legs.
Yeah.
So it's almost like sometimes we do this work where we can almost like we call it sitting on our kangaroo tail, right? So there was a sense,
good image.
they're just sort of like squatting a little bit, but feeling that almost like that bouncy support of that Muladhara chakra energy, and there's a sort of flowing back and forth with through the legs, grounding and stable and solid and rooted, and so the legs being like the roots of, or where we can begin to actually feel this energetic connection to the earth.
Yeah. And so and then back in the house, all the aforementioned places, under the sinks and in the dark places that, typically, you're just not dealing with in an ongoing way, except that it's the foundation of your home.
Yeah.
It's the very thing upon which you're, resting. It's your kangaroo tailness, I guess.
And there also is a whole understanding with the Muladhara chakra that's where the Kundalini, this energy of spiritual evolution, lies sort of coils. And there's a sense of sort of like latent potentiality with Muladhara chakra that if you go down really deep, it's almost like go really deep within you. It's like there's a sense that resting and at the very basis of who you are is this divine energy that's just waiting to be awakened. And once it's awakened, is a sense of just of the longing to return back to your divine source and all of that. And it becomes the energy from which you feel the desire to sort of cultivate and open up these qualities of the different chakras themselves. So it's like a sense of waking up to the beauty of developing.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, exactly.
at the foundation. Exactly. Yeah, it's the source. And so in thinking about the house, in this whole living mandala concept, thinking about the Muladhara chakra, how it shows up in the house, I was also thinking about ways it shows up in, literally our filing cabinets as well. And just hear me out here. I mean, I teased it in the introduction, but this is a good time when you're kind of in the Muladhara zone, if you will, and addressing Muladhara things in your life, take a look in your filing cabinet in terms of is your will? Do you have your most up-to-date will? Nothing really says I love you to your friends and to your family and to whoever is dealing with your estate like I got my papers in order. Real basic. So important. It's such a good foundation. The other things I was thinking about was, do you have a lockbox? It's a good question that, you can ask yourself, do I have the really important stuff in a lockbox somewhere? Do I know where it is? Do I know where the key is? If I do, this is the 2-week window in which to be considering these things. We're stewing in the Muladhara chakra. This episode has a 2-week, kind of homework period. And these are, I guess, sort of the homework items, if you're following along. The other thing I thought of was, creating a password roster and sharing it with anybody that you live with. This is something my husband and I did during the pandemic is that really made me feel secure. As I there was a little part of me that's what if you get COVID and die? I have no idea how to pay the electric bill.
Yeah.
I have no clue. And so we created a password roster for all of our bills and the water and how to pay for the gas and, all of that, so that if something happened to him, I would know how to, handle things, and vice versa. There's things that I handle that, he would need to know, all of the same information. So this is also I feel like that's a very root chakra filing cabinet thing somehow.
Right.
It certainly resonates. The other types of appointments that I was thinking, I was just trying to really think about the Muladhara chakra and how it goes through a whole life, the echoes of it in all the different parts of life. And I was thinking also about, are there medical appointments? I know that, it's probably not very fun to get a colonoscopy. I have not personally had one, so I don't need to know if you have. It's not my business, but it doesn't sound pleasant. And, but this is a adjacent topic. You know what I mean? If we're in the vibration of the Muladhara chakra, is it time to schedule your colonoscopy? And then in terms of self-care, we've all, maybe we haven't, but there's this concept called grounding, where you literally lay down on the ground. That's the secret sauce. You just lay down and you plug yourself into the earth. You could also just walk around barefoot, but that you really get in contact with the actual gravitational pull of the earth with no barrier. No, there's not you in in shoes between you and the earth. There's not a bunch of layers between you and the earth.
Yeah.
The grounding is really, really helpful. This last self-care item, it's a little bit out there, but sun your perineum. Many, you're giving me a look, but many years ago, I worked with a midwife, and very practically, if a woman, had a particularly difficult childbirth, or, had to have an episiotomy, which is a cutting, in order to encourage healing, she would very often tell these women to go sun their perineum. If somebody came in with a particularly bad infection, part of the healing regimen would be go sun your perineum, that the sunshine is very healing, physically on a part of your body that typically the sun don't shine, as they said. Also, in thinking about the Muladhara chakra, there's a lot of different, tables of correspondences, if you will. I've got my own living mandala chart of correspondences here that I'm actually working from right now. But, typically these chakras are also aligned with different planets and different days of the week and different astrological signs. And so, in that spirit, the day of the week connected with the root chakra is Saturday, named after Saturn, of course, the planet. And, so this could be an interesting time. If you know how to pull your natal chart, if you're into these type of things, just for fun, take a look at where Saturn is in your chart. Just see what house it's in, what sign it's in, and just see if there's any intelligence that makes sense to you based on where Saturn is in your chart. You can also take a look at your chart at where Capricorn and Aquarius are. Those are two zodiacal signs ruled by Saturn. And so whatever's happening in those houses, maybe you've got other planets going on in Capricorn and Aquarius. I don't know, you just can be a part of like the bigger investigation, right? If we're digging around in our house, we might as well be digging around in our astrological charts as well. And then the color, you mentioned red, and that is the color associated with the root chakra, but the color most associated with Saturn is actually black. And so, if you really wanted to like commingle all the ideas here, like, because this is how my brain works, Dr. Barnard, you already know this about me. You'd wear all black and red on a Saturday while you cleaned out under your sink and took a look at your will. You would line up as hell can to really get in there and do it, right? And so that's the idea here with this series. So do you feel complete with the Muladhara chakra? What else do you want to add?
I do. The only thing is I like actually the notion of black, because it seems like it's, to me, the Muladhara is about going into your depths also, right? Almost into the abyss.
Yeah.
Right? So it's into the unknown, but not in a scary way. But it's sort of like in the sense that, wow, there's almost like a velvety darkness or something with the Muladhara, and also this notion that these elements, they're like living energies for these different perspectives, right? And so when we even the Native American traditions, there's such emphasis on these elements, right? So the sense of that, so when you were talking about like the earth, the sense of stone, and you had this whole notion, lots of the indigenous traditions, like stone people, and the sense that you have literally like a relationship with specific stones, and they'd be alive and conscious, and so it's a sense that we can really feel our kinship also within our own, the Muladhara structure is also, the Muladhara sort of earthiness is also like our bones and just the solidity of our being.
Like the framing of our house.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And one other thing, just I don't know, we were talking about security and safety. I just wonder about alarm systems.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm going to let that. Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's the same genre. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because that just came to me. I haven't really thought about the house chakras.
Well, you're going to be thinking about it today.
Clearly. It's a joy, pleasure.
And so that's how this is going to work. I'm actually going to in the episode show notes, post all of the suggested homework items. So, we've learned about the chakra, right? Thank you again so much for that little deep dive there. But I'm going to list there all of the different suggestions, the places to begin if you'd like to do this journey, locations in your house, different appointments you can make, where to look in your filing cabinet, what you can do for self-care, and then where to look in your natal chart too, to really sync up this whole interdimensional aspect of your life that's like moving through your life in all these different directions, in, out, up, down, to the stars and back, right? And so we're going to move on to the sacral chakra. That's up next, but we're going to take a quick break. Thanks for listening to the Living Mandala podcast. Hey there, it's me again. Just wanted to say thanks so much for listening. And if after listening you feel somewhat inspired and you feel like maybe you want to implement some of these things and follow along at home, I would love to hear from you. Please reach out to me on the contact page of livingmandalaconsulting.com. I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you.